I'm Corbitt with DVAuction, here with your feeder flash for Monday, November the 10th, brought to you in part by Gamrazine by Bimeda. Gamrazine is the first and only bioequivalent of Zactran. It is fast, effective, and convenient, and has a fair upfront pricing like all Bimeda products with no gimmicks. For more information, go to bimedaus.com. Also, Joplin Regional Stockyards in Carthage, Missouri, expecting a big sale here on Monday, so people are pretty excited about the market. They're expecting 9,500 head, and the sale starts at 5 o'clock in the morning. They're going to have lots of yearlings, they'll have lots of light calves, they'll have lots of everything. They'll have some for the rich and maybe a few for the poor. They're going to have a yearling special coming up later in the month on November the 24th. That's always a really good sale. And then don't forget that value-added special that they're having on December the 4th with lots of long-time weaned and vaccinated calves on that sale. You can always view all of Joplin's sales at DVAuction.com. Social media psychology. I tell you what, the Trump tweets, and I'm not exactly, I don't think you call them tweets when they do it on Truth Social. Maybe they're truths. Maybe that's why he called it truth. I don't know. But anyway, we've had about enough of them. Now, the one that he put out late last week was, it was the only one that they've ever released that was finally when the board was closed. And after the Friday close, so people had lots of time to absorb it. You know, he said that he was directing the Department of Justice to investigate the big four packers and kind of real derogatory about the big four packers. And why did he do that? Well, he's getting some information after he was trying to blame high beef prices on the cattle producers. Of course, we all knew we didn't have anything to do with that. He started getting some information from a few key people out there that had a way to get that information into his cabinet and places like that. And namely, one is Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith. And as far as I'm concerned, none of the congresspeople or senators should be able to speak to Trump about cattle issues except for Cindy Hyde-Smith, because she knows, and she knows it from the small producer end. Her and her husband run a sale barn in Mississippi. They're salt of the earth people. I've got some good friends that can just pick up their phone and call Cindy Hyde-Smith anytime they want, and she is always engaged and always knows what's going on in the cattle business. Well, she had a couple of other senators come in there and had a sit down with Trump and told him what was going on. And we've known this has been a big issue for a long time about the big four packers are always abusing the cattle people. But it was mostly back during the pandemic. That's when we saw them really gouging and abusing consumers and producers on both sides. You know, their product went up astronomically. Even during this last run-up, it didn't get near, the beef prices didn't get near as high as they did during COVID. And all during that time, cattle prices were kind of steady to weak, and they didn't share any of that. And in fact, their partners that they have these formula deals with, these big corporate, these big feeders that they do those trades with, a part of their formula deal is to have some profit sharing, and they even cut those partners out of that when they got to COVID. That they wouldn't buy their cattle. Oh, they're too big. No shit. You've let me sit on them here for 2 months. Yes, they're too big. Well, we can't buy those. We'll go over here and buy these others on a cash basis and cut you out, which you know, that's not right to those big feeders either. They should have stood fair on those deals they had with them. I said, you know, what gives on that? Well, they said they had slowed production so they couldn't take our cattle. Well, what if you had slowed feeding and couldn't provide the cattle had the shoe been on the other foot, oh, they would cause a stink and probably sue us if we didn't have the cattle there. And so there were small feedlots that don't have a sweetheart deal that started seeing your big packers showing up through their gate for the first time in decades. I mean, over 20 years they hadn't seen a cash fed cattle buyer come into their feed yard, and they come in there looking over the fence and around. Can I help you? Do you have any cattle that would be ready that you might sell to us? Well, I might. And so they're buying cattle like that to fill their coffers during the COVID so they can take full advantage. And I've told you on here many times that the packers at the most extreme point were making up to $1,200 a carcass, or $1,200 a head. It was just extreme, and all your big packers saw their biggest profits ever during the pandemic there. Well, times are a little tougher for them now. Everybody thinks beef's high now. Well, actually, your box beef cutout values and your wholesale beef prices aren't that high compared to how high the cattle market is, so they're not really gouging as that much now. But I fully believe that if they would have made that statement about investigating or having the Department of Justice investigate the big four packers, had they made it when the board was open, I have no doubt that it would have went straight up. It would have locked up the limit, I believe. Most of the casual traders and the people in the industry I know, that they were saying, this is good, right? This is good, right? And it just smelled like it was going to be good, but the board was closed for the week, so we couldn't see any of that. And so, I don't know, now that we've had 2 or 3 days to think about it, most of your big players, especially those that watch your technical charts and things like that, they've turned this into a downer. So I've always said everything kills the cattle futures. I firmly believe if a giant lightning bolt come and hit one of our biggest feed yards and killed everyone in the feed yard, the board would open up down the limit. Just everything's down, a downer. We never get to experience a big upturn in anything. We have to earn and scratch and claw for every single bit of it. But so, anyway, we'll get back to the start of the story. Trump put out this tweet or truth or whatever you call those, that he's going to have DOJ investigate those crooked big four packers. Well, Biden did that 3 times during his presidency. He didn't tweet it because I don't think he knew how to tweet, but they come out with a statement that they were going to investigate the big four packers and all the collusion and all that kind of stuff. Nothing ever happened. Nothing, literally nothing ever happened. Nobody even looked up because they knew nothing was going to be done, and nothing was done. It was just a statement that was put out, and I don't even know why they wasted the ink putting it out, because absolutely nothing happened. And I even think if this administration had just put it out in a briefing or in a public statement or an official statement to the media, if they would have put it out like that, it wouldn't be rocking things as much. But those tweets that come straight from Trump, they rock things. I mean, they absolutely rock things. We've felt it several times already. And and then a lot of people are saying, well, why would you think investigating the beef packers would be a positive? We have to live by them, because they would have to tighten up. If they think that they're going to have investigators come in there and start investigating, we know that they do crooked stuff. The packers have been crooked since the get-go. It's not a coincidence that Al Capone started out in the Chicago stockyards. That's where all the crooked stuff happened. It's still that way. Always has been. It was absolute worst during the COVID, but it's going on all the time. Well, what are they doing wrong now? They're manipulating the base price on their formula traits. They do it all the time. We saw them do it here just last week. You know, they were giving a cash price +1 because they didn't want to put that whole price on there. And they didn't want that affecting the, you know, your weighted average, which makes up your base price. You know, they're hauling cattle $6 or $7 a hundred away rather than perking the market up where they need them. You know, they're manipulating stuff all the time. So even though it would be tough on the packers, and we rely on the packers to buy the cattle, it would make them kind of shape up, kind of straighten up a little bit, and maybe start being a little bit more fair in their trades if this happened. That's why I think it would have been a positive. It was basically the opposite. It wasn't blaming the cattle people for the high prices of beef. It was blaming the big four packers on that. So I think we would have had the reverse action. But now that everybody has had time to overthink it, now I don't think it would. I think it might be kind of a wash, but it might be very, very volatile, which is what we're used to. Of course, then the algorithms come in and run it one way or the other, and we really don't know what's going to happen here on Monday. It's a crapshoot. And then I believe Tuesday, the board's going to be closed for Veterans Day. I'm not sure about that. But it's a shaky thing. These packers are not having it great right now. The big four are starting to get some competition. There's been some new packing plants open. There's some more set to open here pretty quick. The big four haven't built a new modern packing plant for a long time. They're not killing very many cattle at all in the packing plants that they have open. So they don't have economies of scale, and their price per head slaughtered is sky high. They're not very efficient at all. I would not be surprised to see a big four major packing plant close here, and this could spur that on. I'm sure they are thinking about it already, but this could spur that on. That would be very, very bearish for the market. But I mean, this can of worms that all of a sudden Washington, D.C. started to open up on cattle, there's just so many levels to it. And they can't just come out there and jump out there with a jolting tweet on social media, because this industry can't handle those. Please stop. Stop putting those tweets out that have anything to do with cattle or beef. This is so sensitive. We're just standing on a quivering rock here. Please don't do that anymore. If you need to make an official statement or a press release or something, that would be all right. But you know, and a lot of people think that the packers are holding a lot of long positions right now, and they're going to sell them off. I mean, well, you guys are coming after us. Watch this. We're going to sell them off, the cattle futures. You know, maybe they do, maybe they don't. Well, we get a kind of a rough view of what's being held by the CME's Commitment of Traders report there, but it's over a month old, because that's something that has to do with the government, so now we don't have the information we need. I've never known the packers to hold a lot of long positions, because when they're long, the board, that is supportive to the market, and they never want to be supportive to the market, guys. I would be surprised at that. But, you know, just, again, go back to our fundamentals. Think back to the early 1950s. I can't think that far back because I wasn't born until 20 years after that. But the early 1950s, you remember those old cars and the way people lived and Norman Rockwell type stuff. That's the last time we had a cow herd this small. And there's a whole hell of a lot more people right now in this country. Of course, we make the carcasses bigger, but still, there's many times more people there. And we just got to continue to think about that. But my gosh, we don't need these politicians messing with the cattle market. If you want to buy some cattle kind of worth the money, you need some cattle to turn out on wheat, or you have other kind of inexpensive forage you're going to put them on this winter, you can get a hold of them at Ellison Carter Cattle Company there in Santo, Texas. I've been wanting some quotes for him so I could share with you guys what you could order some cattle for, but it's been so volatile. He said he just hadn't felt comfortable giving me the quotes he had because he didn't think he could own up to them. But this is an idea what you can order cattle for, and this is delivered to the Texas Panhandle or western Oklahoma. These cattle need to be straightened out, and if you're a cowboy, you can straighten them out on the wheat, or if you got some pins and you're pretty good at it, you can straighten them up there. They're not going to be foolproof. They're coming out of little small producers there in central Texas. They're bought out of all those sale barns that they have down there, mostly one at a time. Good enough kind of cattle that you can straighten them out and get them going. They'll be good yearlings when you get done with them, but you're going to have to know what you're doing to get them. But you look at the steers and bulls, a load weighed 350 pounds at 428 delivered. Load weighed 365 at 406. A segment of cattle weighed 415 at 398. Steers, 510 pounds. Pretty nice jag, all blacks and all steers. 510 pounds at 380. That would be quite a bit cheaper than those big strings up in the northern plains. How about 560 pound with several bulls on them and a little bit plainer, but 560 pounds at 325. 725 pound cutting bulls at 295, and 785 pound yearling steers at 323. And those are delivered prices, guys. How about the heifers? 325 pound all black heifers at 391. 405 pound all black heifer calves at 352. 465 pound all blacks at 345. Some plainer type 475 pound heifers at 320, and then some bigger 615 pound kind of yearling heifers at 299, and then some all black 655 pound heifers at 305. But if you're interested in ordering something like that, get a hold of them at EllisonCarterCattle.com. Let's talk about a couple of sales you might want to go to this coming week here. We got coming up. They're stick out replacement type deals. Think about the CDP Brangus outfit if you are looking to grow your herd. CDP Brangus Fall Production Sale is coming up on November 12th and 13th. That is Wednesday and Thursday of this week from the Dragon M Ranch in El Dorado, Arkansas. 250 Brangus or Ultra Black Bulls. I mean, they'll be good ones, guys, if you want them. They've got 300 commercial Brangus heifers. You want to get a big bunch of them and take them home and breed them yourself. They've got 100 red Brangus heifers there. Guys, I tell you what, it'll be a top sale there. If you want to look at what they've got for sale, you can go to sale.cdpbrangus.com or go to DVAuction.com, scroll down to Wednesday or Thursday sales and look at the videos of CDP Brangus. I tell you what, you'll be glad you did. Now another more commercial type deal will be the Paris Stockyards in Paris, Kentucky. That's top sale down there, guys. They are having a special tonight here on Monday, November the 10th at 6:30 p.m. They've got 23 Angus bulls from the Rumor Has It Farms. You remember that's Mike Thornton, our friend that always tops the market down there, and he'll have big strings of yearlings in there. Well, he's got 23 top Angus, and that's the Rumor Has It Farms, what he calls that, right there in Paris, Kentucky. He's going to be selling them. They've got 20 black fall heifer pairs. They've got 74 black and 56 Charolais heifers bred to calving these bulls, guys, and they will all be eligible for the Kentucky CAIP program there. So if you want to, and those heifers are due to calve the end of February, got a 60-day calving window there. So check them out, guys. At Paris Stockyards, you can view and bid them at DVAuction.com. Let's talk about your board on to end the week last week. December live cattle futures. Monday was up 252, Tuesday down 442, Wednesday down 7 1/4, Thursday down 175, and Friday up 252, with your December live cattle futures ending the week at 221.35, down 832 for the week. February ended the week at 219.75, down 790. November feeder cattle, Monday was up 370, Tuesday was down 760, Wednesday was down 9 1/4 with all that Mexico border stuff going on. Thursday was down 367, Friday was up 435. November feeder cattle ended the week at 326.40, down 1247. January ended the week at 319.57, down 1233. December corn ended the week at 427 1/4, down 4.5 cents a bushel. Soybeans 11.17 at the end of the week, up 1 3/4 cent. Hard red winter wheat for December ended the week at 519 1/4, down 5 1/4. Let's talk about your fat cattle trade. Through Thursday, 56,350 had been sold, negotiated cash out of your major negotiated areas there. Fat steers and heifers, 225 to 232 on a live basis. That was $3 to $5 lower. Your weighted average on steers was 228.97, down 189 through Thursday there. Your dress sales 355 to 365, which was steady on your trend, but your weighted average was just 21 cents lower at 358.33. Your Friday we had some more sales. 200 head in Iowa, 26,200 for the week. Live price in Iowa was 226. 600 in Nebraska, 24,000 for the week. Dress price in Nebraska on Friday, 355. Kansas sold another 600, only 2,650 for the whole week. But your live price spread on Friday was 228 to 230. Texas didn't sell anything on Friday. They had sold 5,000 for the week. Box beef cutout values were mixed. Your weighted average on choice cuts for the whole week's trade last week was 377.89, down 177. By late Friday, it was 376.40, about 50 cents lower. Your select weighted average on all of last week's trades, 360.66, and that was up 33 cents. By late Friday, it was 361.09, about 50 cents lower than that weighted average. But your choice select spread was 17.23 on the weighted average, and all that based on 627 loads of cuts, grinds, and trimmings. Your slaughter, and that reminds me, I want to apologize. Last week I was on such a roll talking about how many cattle were coming in from places, and I was comparing it to the slaughter, and I was totally off on that. But give me a break, I was on a roll. For the whole week last week, we only killed 555,000. Now, for when things are normal and everything is going right, we normally kill about 635,000 for the week. But last week, only 555,000. That was 4,000 less than last week, 46,000 less than the same week a year ago. Let's talk about your feeder cattle market. Brought to you by Specialty Risk Insurance. They are working to protect your livelihood, guys. Your real-time index ended the week at 340.61 based on an 800-pound cash auction steer. That was 77 cents a hundred lower than last week at this time at the end of the week. Your steer tracker ended the week at 342.93, so it was some higher. Like some people think this might be a higher deal. Your latest CME cash feeder cattle index is way behind, sitting at 345.96. I want to tell you about a sale you're sure going to want to look at here early this morning on Monday. Faith Livestock Auction in Faith, South Dakota has got another big Monday calf sale, expecting 9,000 head, being nearly all ranch raised calves coming in big swaths, guys. Starting early, 7 o'clock Mountain there. The Latham Landing Cattle's got 800. Bessler's coming in with 350. West Cologne coming in with 350. Going to be a good sale. You can view and bid that sale on DVAuction.com. Next week, Wednesday, or this week, I guess on Wednesday, I'm going to be at Springfield, Missouri, at Springfield Livestock Marketing Center. They're having a special feeder cattle auction. I'm going to be the guest auctioneer. That's November the 12th. They start at 8 o'clock in the morning. Beaver County Stockyards having 4 loads of bred heifers they're going to sell here on Monday. It's going to be about noontime by the time they sell them. They've got 4 loads of them in. They got Northern Origin. They're AI'd to low birth weight bulls there, guys. They've been pelvic measured. They've been checked. They've been gone through. They're fancy. They got a good frame size. They've got some weight to them, guys. 12 o'clock noon, Beaver County Stockyards, DVAuction.com. Talk about your trends, your sale barns last week. It was wildly volatile, erratic, running all over everywhere. Early last week, your markets were a lot higher. We thought we'd settle down a little bit, and then we started talking about the Mexican border, and then they turned sharply lower with the futures being erratic there. Middle of the week, by the end of the week, it kind of straightened out, but it was just wild, guys. It was really wild. Sale at the end of the week there that I thought was pretty impressive, even though it was sharply lower, was Fort Pierre Livestock Auction, Fort Pierre, South Dakota, 9,600 head, and they had a calf special there. All these big quotes are going to come from that northern plains area. That's where the cattle are moving right now. Calves in Fort Pierre were $15 to $50 lower. Ouch. But they're still bringing pretty good prices, guys. Fort Pierre was your Superior Steel Sales, home of Superior Standard livestock handling equipment. And you look at these lots of steer calves that I pulled out from Fort Pierre's sale on Friday of 100 head or more. So this is the market. This is what they're worth. They were weighing from 485 to 600 pounds, and you see them all there, and bring from 433 to 462. 500-pound steer won't bring $5 a pound, but it'll get close. St. Ange Livestock, St. Ange, South Dakota, on Friday, they sold 106 steers, weighed 495 at 499. So that's pretty close. Erickson Spalding Livestock Market there up in Erickson, Nebraska, sells 90 steers, weigh 647 at 429.50. How about Winter Livestock in Winter, South Dakota? They sold 106 steers, weighed 618 at 421.50. Harriet Livestock Market, Harriet, South Dakota. That's a fairly new broadcaster on DV Auction. Sold 76 steers, weighed 734 at 382.75. That's a big quote, but the most impressive quote, and for the way things are, it's just really impressive, that I saw late last week. It was your Macrison No BS top quote for the day, and get a gist of this one, was out of Lexington Livestock Market in Lexington, Nebraska. 233 steers, weighed 820 pounds at 370 and a quarter, when the board based on an 800-pound steer is at 326.40, and your index levels are just barely over 340. They bring 370 and a quarter. Big time quote, guys. That's your feeder flash for Monday.